It's now the final episode of Ready to Love, minus the reunion show. And as usual, we don't end up with three couples as Tommy and the producers try to get. So, what happened? Well, in one case, which is Mark Anthony Mercedes, it simply was bad timing. Mark Anthony meets one of Mercedes' closest friends, and with that, she comes to realize that to be with Mark Anthony, who she finds very pretty, it requires being in a long distance relationship. And for her, she came to Miami in order to find herself, kind of solidify who she is as a woman. So to add on the complication of being with a man who is nowhere near her, since he's going to be traveling from Miami to the New York area and back a lot, for her, it just leads to too many complications. So while they'll remain friends, as for dating, relationship, love, marriage, all that other stuff, it's just not the right time. But on a positive note, there are people who do find love and also end up together in the end. On the lighter note, there's Andre and Jeffrey. They choose each other. She calls him her biblical husband, but if you watch the previews for the reunion show, it seems like that goes south quick. On the other hand, there's Cynthia and Anthony, who, in our opinion, have been well yoked for quite some time, since Anthony was able to deal with James, who was going to be an issue whether or not Cynthia gets involved. And on top of that, he actually has kids. Or was it just one kid? I know he keeps mentioning a daughter, so I think it's one kid. She has two. Mixed blended families is something that he seems open and ready to do, as well as loving Cynthia in a way that allows her to be soft and vulnerable as she clearly wants to be, and definitely is. So thankfully, those two end up together, and we didn't get a case of Cynthia going for Andre, even though she recognized that he was not on her level, and it would take him some time to even try to get on her level. Which leads to the final couple, which is Morgan and Tony, and pretty much the way it seems, Morgan dragged Tony along to this point just so that she can embarrass him the way that he has embarrassed her. So the whole Natasha thing, what Lyndon said, she was just biding her time, and instead of pouring Nair on his non-existent hair, she decided to publicly embarrass him and make it very clear that I don't choose you, you're a terrible person, goodbye. Which you can see made him so pissed. But when it comes to the review, that's pretty much, to me, the biggest highlight when it comes to this episode. Obviously, Morgan's revenge has to be a notable highlight. I mean, I don't know what happened to that whole Pastor Morgan persona that we got early on, but clearly, between the whole Nair thing, the way that she was handling Lyndon, it was clear that whoever called her Pastor Morgan only knows one side of her, and that side of her is not the person who she is when she's dating someone. So, her pretty much, from what she says, biding her time for 3 or 4 episodes, just trying to keep Tony on the hook long enough to reach this moment to embarrass him and say, I do not like you, I don't think you're ready to love, and do that in a place where it's very public. It's going to be on national TV, and she can just lay him out right there. I recognize that I shouldn't laugh or be entertained by someone's pain, especially their emotional pain, but I feel like Morgan came onto this show probably looking for love, realizing once Tony did his thing that she ain't gonna find it, so she decided to just get the free drinks, get the free meals, do an activity or so, and then when Tony really pressed her button, she decided, you know what? It's been a while since I did something that could have caused me to go to jail, and I've learned from my experience, so I got you, homie. I got you. We'll see you at the end. So another highlight for me is just Mercedes putting herself first, and she's not the first woman to do that when it comes to this show, but I think for Mercedes, it's less of a case of Mark Anthony not being ready to love or ready to love her, but more just so she needs to fully love herself and know who she is before she can really get into a relationship. As she mentioned to Mark Anthony and also the other Anthony, she's been kind of looking for an anchor in a way. And you can definitely tell just by her saying that she needs to really structure herself rather than hang on to somebody else in order to feel whole or secure or something like that. So her walking away makes a lot of sense, and we could only hope for the best for her. Which leads to the last highlight, which is Cynthia got a happy ending, which I'm very glad about because, again, Cynthia to me is the epitome, the one we should put on a pedestal, who the casting directors should be comparing every single future potential cast member to in terms of if they're ready to love, and if they really want to stick to the whole idea that this is supposed to be a show about finding romance, finding love, finding a husband and wife, perhaps someone to have children with, a family. Cynthia to me, and Anthony extension of course, seems like the end goal. Right now they are the golden children, and I can only hope when the reunion show hits, it doesn't blow up in our face and we realize that either Cynthia isn't who she says she is, Anthony isn't, or else their relationship went kaput once the cameras went off. Speaking of relationships going kaput once the cameras are off, honestly, my investment in Andre and Jeffree is kind of nil. To me, Andre's return was already kind of sketchy. And then him sticking around, it almost felt like it was less about Jeffree or even Cynthia. And maybe sort of like Morgan, he was staying around to spite someone else. And really, at times I felt like it was to spite Mercedes and try to kick her off the show. Because him always voting her off, it just felt petty in a way. And when it comes to him and Jeffree, I ain't got beef with them. I don't know these people, but I don't know. Just something about how he kept harping on how he was someone's stepfather before, when I'm like, you didn't adopt them children. You wasn't married to their mother, so that term seems a little bit inappropriate, but whatever. And I don't know. It seemed to me like he wasn't, like for most people who come on the show, you're not ready to love. You're ready to date. And the process is just too quick to really know someone and to really get to know them to the point where you can commit to them. So because he made it this far on a roller coaster, he was ready to go for the full ride. And with that, that's how we ended up with Jeffree. And in terms of Jeffree, I guess once the whole Blake and Sue-Ann beef died down, she was able to stick around because, again, she wasn't offensive to everybody. She just had a beef with this one dude, and nobody jumped on the bandwagon with him, so that's how she made it so far. So overall, this is not going to be the season review. We'll do that probably after the reunion show, but I do have to say, it is nice that we got one quality match from the 8th cast of Ready to Love, and I guess we should take that as a win. Especially since we know that once the reunion show hits, we may not get that one good couple. It's already clear that we definitely lost Andre and Jeffree, so needless to say, this might be the end of the journey, but the real deal moment of whether these people have found love or not, that's to come in the reunion, and I don't know about you, but I'm excited.